Hello, welcome. You're listening to Season 4 of Narcolepsy Navigators, brought to you by Naps for Life CIC. Narcolepsy Navigators is a podcast for raising awareness of these fascinating illnesses through a deep dive into the lives and individuals living with narcolepsy, idiopathic hypersomnia, and Klein-Levin syndrome. I'm Kerly Boga, the founder of Naps for Life CIC, and welcome to our stories.
This episode includes discussion of sensitive and potentially triggering topics. We believe in honest and open conversations, and that means we don't always stay in comfortable territory. We handle these topics with care and intention, but we want you to be able to make the best choice for yourself before listening. If you are in a sensitive place right now, please take care of yourself first. Resources are always available, and it's okay to step away and come back when you're ready. We're glad you're here. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.
Hi everyone, welcome to Narcolepsy Navigators. I am Kerly, your host. I have narcolepsy type 1.
And I'm Liz, your co-host, and I also have narcolepsy with cataplexy.
And today we're here with Alejandro.
Hi everybody, I'm Alejandro Bruner, and I have narcolepsy type 1.
Okay, so Alejandro, how was your weekend?
Oh, this weekend's been amazing. I love being happy, right? You gotta end like your week off, like when you're working really hard, and do things that just give you joy. So yeah, yesterday my wife and I, we go to one of our happy places in the mountains called Pine Valley. So we only have dogs, 3 fur children that we love a lot. And yeah, we just hiked around there and enjoyed the beautiful area, the scenery, and then a nice mountain drive, which love doing that. So that is how the weekend has been. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. That sounds delightful.
And Liz, how was your week?
My weekend was good. I went to a wedding on Thursday of one of my good friends. And wedding's a whole day event and it's a lot of socializing. So I loved it, but I needed at least 2 days to recover. I wasn't even drinking, but just from the exhaustion of all the socializing. I was at my mum's house and she's really chatty and loves to do things with me. So I was trying to balance like getting rest whilst also chatting to her and having some quality time. But finally made the drive back to London today where I live. So it's quite nice to be back in my own flat again. And hopefully I'll have some time to just sit in front of the TV later and not talk to anyone and completely recover before work tomorrow. How about you, Kerly? How has your weekend been?
Yeah, my weekend's been okay, thank God, because I've had a rough 3 weeks with the TMJ and dental issues, which was very annoying because I went to Amsterdam for the health conference and it was really good. It was a very good experience, but I was in pain the whole time I was there. So it was very challenging. Like you're having interviews, you're talking to people. I got interviewed for someone's podcast. You're talking to industry people about narcolepsy and what technologies they could make in the future that could help us, things like that. And you have to put on a smile and a brave face and take photos and stuff. And the whole time I was like dying. So finally, I got some medication on Friday. So a very strong drugs, pain meds, and also a muscle relaxer. They're up to 50. And finally, the last 2 days, I've only had to take tablet once a day. And before I was having to take it on the hour. So that's a big relief. Yeah, because I'm so behind on editing and everything. I was just like feeling really annoyed. It's like I finished college, I finished hairdressing, yay, I passed, and that's great. So then I should have more time for the podcast. But then I got sick, and that was just so annoying.
Yeah, and you think narcolepsy is just going to be the one thing that you have to deal with, and then suddenly it's have this other long-term condition that drives you insane.
And it also affects your sleep because if you're in pain, you're not sleeping properly, and so that messes with narcolepsy. And then also having sleep apnea, when your face is hurting, you don't want a machine that squashes your face on top of the already pain that you're having, but then you have to wear it still. Yeah.
Wow, I'm really glad you got the medication that is helping. I hope it gets easier.
Thank you. And today we're with Alejandro, and welcome to his story. Alejandro, would you like to tell us your name, your age if you feel comfortable, and what area of the world you're living in or state, and the year you were diagnosed?
Absolutely. And first of all, again, congratulations on the graduation.
Thank
Achieving
you.
those goals, that is huge. Seriously, congratulations on that, especially with everything we lived through, right? That's a huge accomplishment. So very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Alejandro Bruner Solas, I'm the program manager for PWN for PWM. We are a nonprofit organization here in the United States. But however, we look at it as we also serve international, right? I manage the programs that we have for our organization, like the Jobs Project, which helps people bridge that gap and either trying to search for employment, because that's a whole beast on its own, or just getting some type of education, maybe to step up their game in their career or whatever, and connect them with a recruiter. Sam, he's amazing. He's been around the industry for 30 years. So it's nice to finally connect people with opportunities like that, especially because my background, I came from corporate America and my background's human resources. So that's a passion of mine. Now, where I reside is I live here in the United States, like I just mentioned, in Commerce City, Colorado, we're like a suburb of Denver. Good old Colorado. However, I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Definitely, my heart belongs in California. That's where it's at, Northern California. Very proud of that. And then, I am 49 years old. I was diagnosed at 38. However, I've had the narcolepsy type 1 since I was 5 years old. And the only reason why I know that is that's when the sleep paralysis kicked in for the very first time. And it became pretty much almost a nightly thing, just paralysis. Yeah, anybody that experiences, they get it. And then, of course, everything else just started happening right after that. The EDS, just misdiagnosis of you have a learning disability. And I just want to sleep all the time. That's pretty much how it was. And then comorbidities. The other thing is the circadian rhythm sleep disorder, sleep apnea. So, I know about the mask thing. Actually, I was diagnosed with that first at 36. And then also diabetes. So I definitely manage my diabetes. So that also plays a role into it.
Wow. So you were diagnosed at 38 and you also had other diagnoses along the way before that. Why do you think it took until you were 38 before you managed to get a diagnosis?
I grew up in a mixed family, right? I grew up with nothing but half brothers and sisters. And I was the youngest. I think really for my parents at this time, I was their last child, and it was a great opportunity for them to do something different, right? Do it better. And they had their careers. They were established. Right. But I had these other siblings and there was dysfunction going on in there. So when I was 5 and I had that first experiencing the paralysis, now I do have some ideas, and now I can't say it's definite 100%. Based on the research, it's either some type of traumatic event that's happened to your head, some type of brain trauma that could trigger the narcolepsy, or like a flu, right? And I remember when I was around 4 years old playing around with the siblings while the parents were out on date night with our neighbors. And so we're at the neighbor's house, and I just remember being that little boy playing around with my siblings, and my brother Jay was on his back and he was launching me off of my butt into the air, and they had pillows and everything, and I would land on the pillows, and it was fun, right? Do it again kind of thing. And finally, when they did it again, I got launched high in the air, missed the pillows, and hit my head, and I was knocked out. I just remember, and I don't remember that part. Of course, the only ways I can describe it is because how my siblings described it, right? Where I'm just I guess I went limp, I'm knocked out, they're freaking out. I do remember when I woke up, I'm instantly crying. So that was the head trauma, right? Now that could have triggered it, or maybe when I do remember having the flu when I was around that age too. So it could have been that, who knows, right? Now, what made me not speak up? Here I am, this kid experiencing something that's just odd to me. I can't explain it, right? Really, it's you wake up and you can't move your body. And I remember I was like that kid that was scared at night. I didn't want to sleep alone, so I was sleeping with my brother Rocky. He's my oldest sibling that I lived with. And I remember telling him, hey, this is what's happened. My body's not moving at night. And when it happens, I'm going to yell. And so you can help me get unstuck. Just help me. And it did. It happened that night. Paralysis kicks in, and that's when I learned you can't even speak. There's nothing you can do about it. And what's interesting is I do remember telling him that happened, and then that was it. He was the only person I told. I didn't tell my parents. I never questioned it after that. And the reason why is because, unfortunately, I am a child who was also getting molested. So I was being taught to keep things quiet and not say anything. So I had another sibling molesting me. I actually had 2 siblings molesting me, one directly, the other one indirectly, because it was more like they were showing me genitalia, things like weird things like that. Just these 2 just did really weird, disgusting things. And it affected me, and it taught me that you keep things quiet, right? You don't say anything. So I never talked about the paralysis. Now, there was one other time back when I was like maybe 17 years old, 18 years old, and my cousin was staying with me. And this is actually, keep in mind, when I was 14, my mom passed away. When I became about 15 and a half, 16, I moved away from my dad. Nothing against my dad. It was nothing. My dad had he was a director in the federal government. He had an amazing career, very focused on that. He's always in DC and all that kind of stuff. And plus, I just didn't know how to communicate everything that's going on in my life, all the challenges that I'm facing. And particularly, it was more of what I just told you, right? The molestation, the abuse. And I even had Rocky, unfortunately, was physically abusive to me because he was very angry. Their mom had passed away, and I think a lot of that was taken out on me. So I was very scared of my siblings. And so, yeah, I ended up emancipating myself, basically. Not legally. I threatened my dad that I was going to emancipate myself, but he allowed me to just live in Chico. Unfortunately, at that time, I knew an older lady who was a teacher. And I met her through my older brother, Ruben. And she was there when my mom died. And really, for me, it was almost a blessing in a sense. That's how I was trying to take it, that here's this older person that's like my mom's age, that's an educator that has concern for me. But unfortunately, that person ended up molesting me too until 18 years old. And you can imagine sleepless nights thinking about all this. I was also very scared of that person. And so I didn't know. And plus, I'm at the time, this is the 90s, where you're hearing like news stories where this kid has slept with their teacher and the teacher's now pregnant and it's out in the news and people are making fun of it. I don't want to say any of this. I kept it quiet. And yeah, that kind of all happened. So that's really why I never really talked about, never asked anybody else. I didn't even tell this person that I was living with in Chico, hey, what does it mean that I have this paralysis and all that? But finally, I was telling my wife just yesterday, I'm like, you know what's wild about my life is that I had all this messed up stuff going on, but I also had amazing experiences. Here's all this stuff going on as a kid, but then I always look forward to summertime because that's when my dad took me on his business trips. And I'm getting to travel everywhere with him and meeting like the Secretary of State. And I got to meet the President of Mexico, and because he got an award from him. And back in the 80s, all this wonderful stuff. I was telling her that just last night. It's just wild. And then I had amazing careers going into when I'm dealing with all these issues through school. We're in elementary school, we're in junior high school and high school. And that was a struggle for me. I'm an intelligent person, and the educators can never put their finger on it, right? What is wrong with him? Why does he interact with us somewhat during the day? He can answer things correctly, but when it comes to testing, he's just falling off. And the areas I typically fell off of, and that really for me, the narcolepsy affected comprehension. Now, I suck at math, so I don't use that as an excuse. It's just I'm horrible at math. But when it came to comprehension, it wasn't that I wasn't comprehending, it's just the fact that I micronap a lot. And that's what's happening. Teachers teaching me things in the class, they're lecturing, I'm micronapping, so I'm like in between the awake and dream states. I get a test put in front of me. You are timed. And yeah, I was struggling when it came to comprehension. So I would fail tests because, again, I would have to read. I'd read a few sentences and then I'd have to go back because I fell asleep, right? I micronapped and it was just constant going back and forth. And you know what? I'm sorry, but that was also exhausting having to do that. That was just exhausting. And so that just happened. And then finally, when I got into high school is when I started experiencing a lot of tests by not only the school district, but by the state itself, the Department of Education, where they were just trying to figure out, does he have ADHD, ADD, is he autistic? I remember just all these types of tests, right? They were pulling me out of class.
So the teachers had noticed that something, they couldn't put their finger on it. They requested that you be tested.
Exactly. They're requesting I'm being tested. There's something, we just can't put our finger on it. So yeah, they couldn't figure it out. They still didn't, but they're like, okay, he has some type of learning disability, right? We don't know what it is. And so they did. They put me, I want to say my junior year, they put me in special education. And that first week, the teachers pulled me aside at their desk. It was 2 teachers. And they said, we don't know why you're here. We've got these tests. We don't know you're here, but we have to keep you here. But to keep you, engaged, right? They want to keep me engaged. So I ended up helping them be a student aid. So I'm now helping the children with the actual learning disabilities. And I was helping them, especially like in comprehension, history. Like I loved history. Mr. Yerman was amazing. Now, he definitely kept me engaged to where I didn't have too many like EDS episodes because Mr. Yerman, he taught US history and he was just very dynamic. Always showed movies and he was very animated. Everything had a story to it. And so I loved him. And I also attribute a lot of my success to managing all of this throughout my life is because I had amazing mentors. And that's what I encourage people if they're struggling now, find a mentor because they can really help you. And what's amazing about mentors, if they're doing it right, there's never expectations on your mentor's end. They are there to just help you feel supported that you're reaching your full potential. When you fail, they are there to help you along the way. They are not there to judge you and tell you that you failed. They are just there to guide you and give you roads or whatever tools to just help you navigate the world. So I highly encourage, have amazing mentors. I have been blessed. I speak highly of my dad. Yes, weird things happen in my life. The good news is when I was around 18, I told him everything that happened underneath the roof. And that was the most amazing thing because I was so afraid to be vulnerable because again, I was expecting, because it's always in my head, no, you're lying. But no, my dad was like, I believe you. He believed me and he supported me. So that was amazing. And again, the reason why I left, not his home, it wasn't because of him. It was because I needed to get away from my siblings. That's what I needed to do. I needed to get away from them. I think I did it for a good 20 years or so. I just separated. And sometimes you got to do that. I know that people believe that blood is thicker than water. I don't believe that, right? I believe in you got to have people in your life that support you, that love you additionally. Okay. It doesn't matter the quantity of people you have in your life. Okay. But the quality matters. So you have one individual, that's all it takes.
Yeah. There's no point staying in a toxic environment just because you have blood with that person. That's not enough.
Exactly. And you know what's sad about that is that we do that in the workforce, right? Not only are we're trying to navigate toxicity in our life, but then we get stuck in the workforce about it too. We get into a job that is toxic, we don't like, that's not good for us, that crosses our barriers, our core values. That's the one thing I want people to understand is recognize your core values. And once you start doing that, you're going to realize, okay, I need to do things that are good for me, that don't cross these boundaries, or at least I'm going to set up these boundaries so they do not get crossed. But unfortunately in life, we allow people to cross those boundaries all the time. I did. I was just open to you and told you how my boundaries were being crossed. I didn't know how to stop it. But finally, I stopped the sexual abuse at the age of 18, but the mental abuse that with that person, I kept that person, that educator in my life until I was about 35. I was allowing those boundaries to be crossed to all the way up to that point. It was wild. And then I even let my previous corporate job, I was with them for a good 11 years, and it was a daily basis of my boundaries being crossed. And I allowed that. And now the previous employer, Macy's, who I was with before, they were amazing. Never crossed my boundaries as an HR professional. I learned so much from them. It was amazing. And in all honesty, my first career was with JCPenney, right? I was a janitor. I tried to go to college. I couldn't do it. I think I barely lasted a semester. I tried. And I was fortunate, like in California, if you're a veteran in the military, like my dad was, they actually cover your tuition. There's like a benefit there where your tuition is covered 100%. And I tried taking advantage of that and I just couldn't. It sucked. So I was a janitor at JCPenney, and within 6 months, I ended up getting to stock work. And then that's when I got to start working for Jim Gioso, senior department manager. At the time, they were called senior merchandisers. And I just mentor right there. He taught me some amazing things and he believed in me. like seriously believed in me, that regardless of me not being able to finish college, and at that time in the 90s, like trying to become a manager, you needed that degree. Jim and Mr. Oliver, they really supported me. And it took a few years for me to become a department manager, but it happened because of Jim Giorso's support. Really, it was really his support. It was just nice to have a store manager back that up, especially when you're trying to talk to these recruiters at JCPenney that are only looking for people with degrees. But yeah, it happened. That was amazing. I learned so much. Love JCPenney, their culture. I can't say about it now, but back then, amazing.
Sorry, Alejandro, I just wanted to ask something. All throughout your career up until 38, you weren't diagnosed. What was the kind of tipping point into actually accessing a diagnosis?
Absolutely. I was finally sick and tired of being tired of trying to stay awake all the time. It finally hit its head, right? I was struggling, fighting it, but finally I got sleep deprivation to the extreme. It started when I was with Macy's. And again, I had amazing support. My director was so supportive. And I'll remember those days. It was during the time, I'm a Freemason, okay? And this is actually the time when I joined the fraternity and I'm going through my degree work. And it's very intensive because you have to memorize all this work. You go up in front, and when you're ready to get this next degree, you have to recite a lot of stuff. And at this time, it was hard. And I remember there was a lot of times I was spending times in the bathroom trying to recite it because nobody can hear me do this because you have to keep the secret. And there were times where I was passing out in the bathroom, like falling asleep, and my director just like concerned, knocking on the door. She doesn't know what's going on. And she just talked it up, and maybe I was just staying up late, whatever, which I was because of circadian rhythm sleep disorder. So finally just being embarrassed because, again, my position, I'm in front of VPs a lot. And I'm like in meetings just doing this, fighting it, and I'm missing discussions and work. My quality of work is going down. I'm very proud of my work, so it was really going down. So yeah, so the final straw was this, and this has happened before many times, but my final straw was this. It's after work. I'm driving home. I get off the freeway, whatever. I'm at the stoplight, off the ramp, and that's when I fell asleep at the light. And I woke up, and I'm just like, okay, I can't be falling asleep in the car anymore. And believe me, when I was younger, like in my 20s, going from California into Nevada, I remember one time I woke up in the opposite lane and heading on a logging truck, a big logging truck. Didn't think about it then, but finally I'm like, I've had enough. Yeah, I got a doctor's appointment, explained it to the doctor what's going on. Hey, you might most likely have sleep apnea. So I'm 36 at the time, I want to say. No, 35 at the time, I want to say, 35. And yeah, got the sleep test, sleep apnea. Yeah, it took me about a good year to figure out the mask situation. But once I became 100% at the mask, nothing was changing. Now I'm working for this new corporation, and I'm just nodding out at my desk. I'm nodding out at meetings still. It's like I'm fighting and I'm tired. So I have new insurance. So now with Kaiser Permanente, and they have a sleep clinic, which is amazing. Kaiser Permanente here in Colorado has this cool sleep clinic. And I just remember getting set up with a technician calling me, hey, we want to get you new equipment with your CPAP. Let's set up an appointment. Do you have any questions? And I'm like, that's when I finally asked a professional, what does it mean when I have sleep paralysis at night? Oh, you most likely have narcolepsy. That typically is the indication you have narcolepsy. Let's go ahead and get you set up an appointment with a pulmonologist. And so, yeah, I got set up with the appointment with the pulmonologist, and I answered like the Epworth sleep scale. I answered the insomnia scale. And sure enough, oh yeah, you are sleepy, like sleepy. Like the typical, the question is, how likely are you to fall asleep when watching a movie? It was like extreme. I get the MSLT, and I need to look at it because I just ran across my. And again, anybody, word to the wise, keep your MSLT. So grab it. If you don't have it, make sure you request it. Grab it. I have mine. So anyways, I want to say it was like maybe 3 minutes in REM sleep or 5 minutes. I can't remember. I have to look at it. But anyways, yeah, definitely going into REM sleep. So yeah, okay, you got narcolepsy type 2. That's what they're saying, okay? Which, I mean, makes sense based off my MSLT, okay? But I got this diagnosis, and then, hey, what do you do when you get a diagnosis of something you have no clue about? You research it. You start looking at what's online. And then that's when I was learning about mild cataplexy. And I'm like, wait a second, when I laugh really hard, I'm slurring my words, my knees get weak, which is interesting. I was thinking about the other day. So I was very athletic too. So one of the things that also kept mental state positive through all of this is I mentioned how I needed to protect myself against my siblings. So at 6 years old, I got into the martial arts. By the time I was 14, because that was the year my mom died, I got my first black belt. And that helped me a lot. Where was I going with this? But anyways, okay. So anyways, we'll back up here. So remind me where I was going with. I just had the brain fog.
You were talking about like keeping your mental state well and the exercise that you do.
It's about, again, me staying positive throughout my life is having an outlook on life, being told that there's no such thing as failure. I remember my master instructor telling me that there is no such thing as failure. The good news, you get to do it again. Actually, that really helped me now face my test differently. The minute I heard that, my exams for school, I didn't have much anxiety over at that point. I'm like, you know what? If I fail it, then I will take it again. That's it.
Yeah, so that was good advice.
Yeah.
To take the pressure off.
Exactly. Curly, you make a really great point about pressure. We in society pressure each other so much, right? It's either you're allowing people to pressure you or you're pressuring even yourself. I have done it numerous times. I'm no longer doing that to myself, but 2.5, 3 years ago, I was still doing that. Pressuring myself to be better or putting myself down because my work was going down, even though I knew it was exhaustion. I was sleep deprived. So and that's the one thing I hope in society we can start teaching ourselves and really supporting ourselves is to stop pressuring each other. I'm sorry for the language, but it's bullshit. Okay. And then this need that you don't get any rest to get ahead. Bullshit. It's not. You're not going to get ahead. Eventually, you're going to crash and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Or you're going to treat people disrespectfully because you're just so sleep deprived. And really, that happened to me, right? When I'm so sleep deprived, I get really, I don't want to deal with people. I might be snappy. I might be short. I might not have the empathy or compassion that I need, or that person that actually needs it from me. People just don't realize. I see, again, being in HR, I saw that in the workforce. And again, I saw that more than ever in my last corporate job, where, that was not valued at all. That rest, sleep is not valued. And again, it's the medical industry. The medical industry is the worst at it. They are forcing RNs, doctors, where they are being forced to see more patients than ever. And at times, what used to be a meaningful first consultation at 45 minutes at least are now being shrunk down to 20 minutes. And it's all because they have to have productivity. That's not helping the patient at all.
I think in the UK, it's 10 minutes now for a GP appointment. It's crazy.
Right. You know what? It reminds me of Mr. Oliver used to say this about customer service, right? He was a really big proponent on just making the customer happy, making that connection. And he would say, if you're going to treat a customer poorly, it's like running them through a meat processing plant, right? They're just being processed. They're just being run through, and that is it. Or you make those connections, you understand the individual. For example, when it comes to having the MSLT, that is just a tool, right, for the doctor to help potentially diagnose your sleep disorder, okay? It's not 100%. So here's the doctor relying 100% on the MSLT. You have cataplexy too. I do my research. I realize, wait, it's when my knees will buckle. Being an athlete, I was playing baseball. When my knees buckle, I never thought anything of it because I was always sore, right? My knees were hurting because I was sore. So it's like, that's just because of me just always being an athlete. But when I stopped being an athlete, that never changed. It never ended and my knees buckled. So when I brought that up to him, I'm like, here are the things that happened to me. You know what he said? He literally looked me in the eyes, straight face, and said, there's no such thing as a mild cataplexy. Which brings me to my point, where there are some bad doctors out there that will never consider the patient's experience. They just rely on the data, right? Too much. Again, MSLT is a great tool, but it's not 100%. There's room for lots of error, okay?
I find that absolutely amazing that you can say to someone, there's no such thing as mild cataplexy, but narcolepsy is not black and white. It's not the same for everyone. So it enters each of our bodies, or it's already in the body or whatever. When it's released, it behaves differently to each person. So even though we have the same symptoms, how the symptoms make you feel is not identical. So then you couldn't assume that every single person that had narcolepsy type 1, their cataplexy would be identical, because each of us are different, and how it presents itself in each person's body makes it different. So that's why it will be more severe with one person, like myself. If I'm not on meds, I'll be falling on the ground, and someone else only has it in their face or their neck. That doesn't mean they're not having it. They're still having it. They're just not falling. That doesn't mean that they could be having micro mini cataplexy all day long, and I only have 4 falls in that same day, and they're having more, but because they're not as visible.
And at that point, he shot me down. I just was discouraged at that point. Like, I knew, no, I have mild cataplexy. And again, he was, at this time, I didn't realize it, but he was out on his way to retire. So he came from an old mindset, okay? And what was interesting is that, so when he diagnosed me with this treatment plan, and that was, I remember he called, we had a conversation on the phone, here are your options. One, there's this drug out there called sodium oxybate. It's called Xyrem. You can definitely take this. My only concern as a pulmonologist is that you have apnea, and I'm concerned that it's going to mess with your breathing, because this does suppress your breathing. So right there off the bat, I'm already like, yeah, I'm not going to touch this drug. And then 2, he's telling me I got to take 1 dose when I go to bed, and then I got to wake up 2.5 to 4 hours later and take another dose. I'm not doing that. I'm already tired enough. Why are you making me want to wake up and take another dose? No. So yeah, your other option is you can do amphetamines like modafinil and Adderall. So I chose option B, and so he put me on a cocktail of Adderall and modafinil. Now, keep in mind, when I went to this new employer, that's actually when I changed my whole work schedule. I was always used to working like 9 to 5 kind of thing, and I was even a political director for the Democratic Party in between my retail careers, and still had a flexible schedule. Okay, so now I'm having to work 6 to 5. 6 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And now I'm like waking up 4 o'clock and forcing myself to do this. And to the point where now it's becoming a problem. I'm no longer able to sleep till noon. I can't nap anymore. It started becoming a big problem. Now, the Adderall is also compounding that problem, right? That modafinil Adderall. Because when I'd come in at 6 in the morning to work, I'd pop my Adderall. And at that time, it's the extended ones. I'd take the extended Adderall. And then by noon is when I'm falling asleep again. And then I'd pop the other short one, Adderall. But that would never do anything. And I'd also take the modafinil, right? And again, it wouldn't help afternoon. Anything afternoon just wasn't helping. I'd always nod out, but I kept taking it. Because at least I was on my A game from 6 in the morning to noon. But it's really messed up. There was a colleague that would also show up in the morning with me, Rebecca. I still can't get the image out of her face when I'm talking to her, because I was so just wired off the Adderall that I'm just talking to her, and I can just see at times she just wants to tell me to shut up. But she was so I still see that facial expression when she's, oh my God.
We've all been there with modafinil for sure.
The problem is that what was happening is I'd take that afternoon dose stuff by 8 o'clock at night, then all of a sudden my circadian rhythm went into hyperdrive. And now I can't go to sleep at all. So I'm pulling all-nighters, just whatever I can do. And I did that for a few years. And then, I started noticing in 2017 a change in me. There was a few other incidents before that where I was having mood swings. I was really paranoid about things. Like one incident, my poor wife, it's her 40th birthday. We're in the Bay Area celebrating, and I think she wants to divorce me. I'm telling my family this, in front of her. I'm freaking out. Not like me at all. She was I didn't marry this guy. But we didn't know what was going on. And so in 2017, that became excessive. People came to me for everything at work. They could come to me and I'd help them. I'd guide them with everything. And now I'm noticing that when they come to my desk, I'm working on something, I'd help them, and then I'd be stuck. I'd have this brain fog where it'd take me 30 minutes to figure out what I was doing to get back on track. That was driving me nuts. I started feeling really anxious, anxiety was insane. And I remember it was in the fall, because part of what I did for this company was I managed their employee policies and their HR trainings, like sexual harassment. So not only did I manage them, but I also built stuff. And so what But what was interesting, what I noticed that was alarming is I started not caring, right? Like I just started having this attitude. I don't care anymore. People come to my desk. I don't even care about helping them. I'm staying awake all night. And then in fall, I'm supporting the safety team and helping them develop some safety trainings. And I remember I was meeting with their SME, subject matter expert, to start the conversation. And I'm now working from home. So I started working from home in 2017. And I remember coming in through the door right here behind me, and all of a sudden, like this anxiety, like where I am hyperventilating, kicked in. I've never experienced anything like this. It was insane. And I managed to have this meeting, and that was alarming to me. And yeah, and then in December of that year, I'm down in my basement around midnight, and that's when I'm finally having thoughts of suicide. Because I wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to go to sleep. And I'm thinking about, oh my God, I can hang myself right off the wood beams. I'd go to sleep. It'd be great. But I know me, right? I do try to maintain balance. And I know if something's wrong when I'm thinking like that's not cool. So what I did, and I'm out of my mind. I'm like hallucinating things. I'm out of my mind. I decide, oh my God, you're thinking about suicide. You need to take yourself to the emergency room. And yeah, I got in the car. Took myself to the emergency room. And that's when I discovered, back to how healthcare fails you, is that emergency room failed me. Not only when I walked in, I'm like, I'm out of my mind. I go to the front desk. There's this guy behind the front desk. I'm like, I need help. I have narcolepsy. I am sleep deprived. I'm thinking of suicide. I'm on Adderall, modafinil, and I think that's what's giving me these thoughts. I need help. Please, I need help. And he's like, you need to fill out this form. And I'm like, I can't. I cannot fill out this form. I'm like, can you help me? No, we can't do that for you. And I reach to my pocket, grab my phone, and my wife doesn't know I've left. She's asleep at this time. And I hand my phone to him, but it slips out of my hand. So now I'm accused of throwing my phone at him. He yells at me, don't you throw your phone at me. I'm like, can you just please call my wife? She can help fill this out. Help. No, he just was a dick. So I finally was like, I can't. I'm like, you know what? You're an awful person. I said some stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm out of here. So I go out to outside the hospital. I lay down. I sit down on the curb of the street and I call 911. Because I know I can't get in the car. I can't get in the car right now. So I call 911 on myself. Tell them what's going on, how this hospital is treating me. The sheriff shows up. They actually walk me in. And yeah, they get me settled. They get me into an ER room. And then again, the experience becomes worse. That is when the doctor is accusing me of being on other drugs. And again, I'm repeating myself. They did a drug test and everything. Like they did that. And I'm like, I just want off Adderall and modafinil. These are the drugs I'm on. I want off of them. And I'm sleep deprived. Just help me. I just want to go to sleep. Help me get to sleep. And he's standing here like this. And then when I noticed that, I'm a person that understands body language. And I'm like, your body language right now, and I told him that, is telling me you don't care about me. You don't want to listen to me. I'm like, so you know what? I'm out of here. So I did. I got up. I took the IV off me. I think I had an IV. I think I took that off. I got up, signed the paperwork that released myself, and left. And yeah, unfortunately, I had to get back in the car and get home. When the sheriff brought me in, I did ask them to call my wife. So the sheriff did take my phone, called my wife, and she's freaking out now. She's concerned, and she's an occupational therapist, keep in mind. So when I got home, she calmed me down, and we did go to another ER where we love St. Joe's, and they were amazing. I should have went there first. And the reason why they're amazing, because I've had a couple of spinal surgeries there. But I just went to the closest hospital. I didn't want to go down to downtown Denver. So went there. Unfortunately, yes, were they nice? But unfortunately, they admitted, we're like, we don't know how to treat people with narcolepsy. All we could recommend is melatonin. And you all know we laugh when they recommend melatonin. Like it was. My wife and I laughed. We're like, no, that doesn't work. Now, because the other hospital treated me like a drug addict, I knew one thing that could have helped me. Now, but I'm not a drug addict. I don't seek drugs. You probably all know this, that like a lot of us in common have, is that like for my spinal surgeries, when they gave me those narcotics, one, I rarely took them because they didn't do anything for me. And that's because of the orexin issue. Because I have a deficiency in orexin, I don't get addicted to those drugs, and I don't feel the effects of those drugs, except for volume. And I remember because before my second spinal surgery, I had a spasm that I've never experienced in my life. It blew the 10 scale away. And that's why I had to have another spinal surgery. But my wife had to rush me to the hospital. And I remember it was a busy ER, and the doctor attending saw how much pain I was in and pulled me out of the waiting room and brought me in and gave me Valium. And that calmed me down. And that's what I wanted to ask that. I was like, just give me Valium, but I didn't. Because again, I didn't want them thinking I was seeking drugs, because I wasn't seeking drugs. I was seeking sleep. And if there was something that could help me, it was going to be that. At least I think that would have been that. But unfortunately, that happened, got home. And so the good news is that doctor I mentioned, the pulmonologist, that year he did retire. So I have this new sleep doctor named Walter. And he was one of those doctors. He's one of the cool new doctors. Don't call me by my last name. Just call me Walter. There's Walter. And you know what's really cool? Being a minority, I finally actually have a doctor that's a minority. He's African American, right? I'm like, especially because I'm half Puerto Rican. And so I embrace my African blood. And I'm like, okay, I got this guy. He's young and he's on his A game. Like, he is brilliant. And that's when you have mild cataplexy. So he changed the diagnosis to narcolepsy type 1. He's the one. And then, of course, he was there for the whole incident. They were checking to see if I was bipolar. I actually had to go to the mental health place at Kaiser. They had to just evaluate me, make sure I wasn't having any permanent mental health issues, right? Which I didn't. Then even the psychiatrist, okay, this is all related to sleep deprivation. And after that, after meeting with Walter, we got off the amphetamines, and then I did go on a leave of absence from my job. About a month later or so is when I switched to Xyrem. And now I was excited. I'm like, okay, forget about this. And even Walter was like, yeah, it's not going to mess with your breathing. Your apnea is mild anyway, so don't worry about that. So yeah, I did. But unfortunately, even when I was titrating up, the anxiety was insane. I remember, especially when I started work again, when I came back to work, yeah, it was insane, where I couldn't think, I couldn't do. My quality of work is starting to go like this. Bad stuff, like bad brain fog, mood swings. And I was on Xyrem until they finally made the switch to Xywav. So they made Xywav available. Now at this time, I think after a year, like in 2018, is when Walter actually became like the dean of sleep medicine in California, because he was amazing. And I'm just like, I got this new doctor, Sarah Ritchie. I didn't realize that she's now going to blow Walter away. I'm like, and yeah, not only did I get a sleep specialist, but I also got a psychiatrist. Yeah, she got her education in Duke. She got her psychiatry in Duke, sleep education in Stanford.
And what medication did she put you on?
So that's when we made the switch to Xywav. And again, she understood the mental health issues I was experiencing from the Xywav. Now, when we made the switch to Xywav, definitely the anxiety, I would say, it was at 100% on Xywav, and it came down to 25%. That definitely helped, but still issues and still some mood swings, night sweats, the common stuff that we get, the cramping. And also my other issue with both of them, both Xyrem and Xywav, is that yes, when I take the first dose, I knock out, but when it's time to take the second dose, I'm wide awake. And when I was mentioning how my clock changed, all of a sudden now I'm waking up at 2 and I can't go to sleep. That was happening. And then talking with Sarah, also, I remember I was talking about how I'm working for this new employer that I've been with them for a decade now. I was with them for 11 years. They were crossing my boundaries, right? So badly that I was always anxious over that. So the anxiety of that, and then the drugs increasing the anxiety, by 2 o'clock, when I take that second dose, I'm thinking about work, right? I'm thinking about how I'm failing at my job, even though that's not the reality, but that's what I'm telling myself. So really, it was always scary Sundays for me. Every day was scary Sunday, okay? And so it was keeping me awake. And so the anxiety was overriding the drug. And that's exactly how she explained it. And I believe in that. I believe that, yes, your brain is powerful to do stuff like that, right? So, yeah. But again, hey, I was able to survive and do things. And keep in mind, during these times, I'm in complete isolation. I don't want to hang out with friends. But I am doing some things that at least is keeping me balanced enough to where I can function. So when I started working from home, one of the things I started challenging myself is go on a walk, take a break. Go on a walk. And it started. Small wins, everyone. I'm all about small wins. Always been like that through my life, right? Hey, walk that half mile first, right? Small win. It got to the point, it becomes a mile. Now, my dogs and I, we're still in the routine. We're walking a couple miles, at least minimum a day, right? That's our thing. And then I also got into yard work. We built this beautiful home back in 2017. So I love doing yard work. I did a session on small wind, and I used the example of it's amazing when you can just go mow your lawn, right? Trim it, make it look beautiful, step back, and you're like, yeah, I did a good job. I'm proud. Or the other day, the cable guy was here to do some work, and I'm outside talking to him. He's like, your lawn is so green, and the edges are perfect. I'm like, small win. It feels so, especially when you're in a day-to-day of a job where you're struggling to even recognize your small wins because you're so on those big ones, right? Because again, yeah, I get it. I've been there. You want to get the attention of those executives, of your boss, so that people are talking about you in those succession planning conversations, right? But we forget about those small things. If you can remember them, then you won't be tearing yourself apart.
Alejandro, is it all right if I ask you a question?
Oh, please interrupt me too. I can talk. Yeah.
I'm just aware of the time because we probably only have about 10 minutes left. And it sounds like you've had so many kind of challenges throughout your life, starting in childhood. And you've also had a really quite intense and varied career. I'm just wondering whether those things impacted you to go into advocacy or how you ended up going into being an advocate for people with narcolepsy, disabilities.
I was, like I mentioned before, I had parents that were amazing and they were also advocates. Again, they both did rallies. My dad was helping the farm workers back when Cesar Chavez was around marching. So that's in my blood, right? It's always been in my blood. I've always been there to help anyone. Like even when I was in school, when I see somebody bullied, believe me, I was challenging that bully. I was protecting that person getting bullied. Always. And that's another reason why when I was at JCPenney, I was with them for 7 years. I got my assignment in Carson City. I ended up meeting he's now deceased, but he was our former U.S. Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid. He ended up becoming my mentor. So I ended up becoming political director of the Democratic Party. And that's where I actually got to discover my advocacy skills right then and there, to experience that. And yes, to answer your question, it's been my experiences, everything that I've lived up through. I think even this last employer that I mentioned, even though, yes, it was a tough time, I'm blessed that I went through it, okay? Because then I can share that experience and I can help people share that experience and maybe help them navigate it differently. So that was an experience for me. And yeah, so I got into advocacy actually when I was severed by DaVita. Actually, I worked myself out of the job. And they did offer me another job to stay, but I said, nope, I want to do something different. And Wake Up Narcolepsy had a position open up. It was a patient advocacy manager. I'm like, I need to get back into advocacy. And so I started there. But unfortunately, just funding fell through, not their fault at all. I think, again, I was meant to be there because it opened up this world for me. I've never been engaged with the narcolepsy community. So it opened it up for me. And then unfortunately, I lost the job and was unemployed. And I did some rediscovering of myself. And then I ended up getting this job with PWN for PWN. Now, the other thing too is that when I left that last employer, I did get off the sodium oxybates, and that was the best thing I did do for myself. Nothing against them. I think they work wonders for other people. They really do. I hear amazing success stories. Okay, they are. Again, our conditions are just so many what ifs. And that's why I always get back to the point of doctors need to understand that it's not as 100% as some believe. There's a lot of, like Kerly, you mentioned, we're all different how we react and do things. It's not 100%. So what I did is I took a month or so off of the oxybates just to get that out of me. And I switched to microdosing psychedelics. And that has been a game changer for me.
Wow, microdosing psychedelics.
I started, it'll be 2 years ago in December. So what I do is I microdose between 10 to 30 micrograms of LSD. Here in Colorado, psychedelics are decriminalized, which is amazing. So it's a great opportunity. So yeah, and off the bat, I noticed that the first time when I did it, and I was only doing once every week at that time. I did it for 6 months at that frequency, but that first week, I didn't experience any paralysis. First time in my life, I did not experience paralysis. And I didn't experience the excessive daytime sleepiness either, because after getting off the Xywav and Xywav, it creeped back in. I was experiencing it. And I was also now becoming more active. I didn't want to isolate. So things were changing. Now, when I did bring it home for the first time, my wife was very upset. She called me a druggie, you name it. We had that conversation, and 2 months later, after consistently doing it, that's when she said, babe, I know it's the LSD, but I feel like I have my husband back. So now after the 6-month mark, I realized this is working. It's not the placebo effect. So yeah, what I do now is I follow a frequency that is 1 day on, 2 days off. And then it's also 3 months on, 1 month off. And so when I do the 1 month off, typically at the 3-week mark is when the excessive daytime sleepiness starts to creep back in. So
Yeah.
we say people to like this. You are seeing the very energetic Alejandro. That's who you're seeing right now. I have energy. I sleep well. I don't even have the circadian rhythm issues anymore. I'm like passing out like at 9 o'clock at night and stuff like that. It's hard. I'm now sleeping until 8 in the morning. It's truly amazing.
Do you follow advice of someone who, or have you just worked it out as you've gone along?
Back when I was younger, when I was like around 13, I experimented with LSD, but at the high doses. And I noticed that I was feeling amazing at that time. I didn't connect the dots. Like my friends were experiencing LSD differently than I was, and I was able to sleep. I was noticing that at that point, but I didn't put two to two together. Now, after about a year or so, I stopped doing it because, again, I didn't know the source. I didn't know, was I really getting pure LSD like I am now? So yeah, I mean, it's been a great experience. So I follow a pharmaceutical company called Mind. They are doing clinical trials out in New Zealand. They've been doing that for a couple of years or so now. They're the only pharmaceutical company that are doing clinical trials on take-home LSD, microdosing LSD. And they just enrolled their last participant for their clinical like 2B trial for major depressive disorder. So their last report, like around almost a year ago, the participants in that A trial, 60 or 65% went into remission with their depression. Amazing, game changer. Again, they're not taking this on a daily basis. They're taking it 1 day on, 2 days off. And they're taking between, I think, 10 to 25 micrograms. Non-hallucinogenic. So let me make that clear. 25 is non-hallucinogenic. You're going about your day, right? Yeah, so you can drive, you can just go about your day. There's nothing weird going on. You're awake, right? That's for me, that's how I describe it, because I'm not dealing with depressive disorder. And so, yeah, that's going on. I truly believe in it. Follow Mind Bio. Now, their very first clinical trial that they ever did. Now, keep in mind, clinical trials where they always start with male healthy patients. So male healthy patients was on sleep. They actually did their first clinical trial on sleep. And guess what they found? The day after dosing, so post-dose, the day after, these participants were gaining between 20 and 25 minutes of sleep. So there's a lot of potential there. Now, the other one too is, and I also follow prominent doctors that have been in the psychedelic field for decades. But the other thing that I also do, a couple other things, is now I do, on a rare occasion, I do journeys with psychedelic mushrooms. I'm also a psychedelic mushroom grower, and my goal is to be able to provide that to our people at a low cost or no cost at all. So right now, a group of us are in a development phase, so we're in discovery, what that looks like. So right now, the discovery is growing at scale and determining what that scale is. There's also that. And then the other thing too that I'm a big proponent for, that I've actually just got into last 6 months or so, is DMT. DMT is another game-changing molecule. Now everybody's familiar with like ayahuasca. Now DMT, it's something that's, again, natural. Plants produce it. We produce DMT. It's in our lungs. We produce it. That is also very game-changing, because like LSD, but DMT does it, I think, even more profoundly. It helps rebuild neurological pathways. So that's my other thing of psychedelics, are neuroplasticity, right? Where you're doing the psychedelics and they are finding that you are literally building neurological pathways. And so there are some clinical trials going on with DMT involving stroke patients, where they are discovering those neurological pathways are rebuilding. Amazing stuff out there. So I'm a big proponent of that. And yeah, I definitely feel that we're definitely in a different era now, right? Where, like, for me, I don't have to be underground about it. And I'm talking about it. Letting people know. Now, again, I know I can talk about it, but again, it's cautious. I always tell people I'm not selling you to go do it. It's not that, but I'm just going to share my experience. But I do encourage people to look it up, research it. There are some amazing medical professionals out there. There's Andrew Gilliam. So when it comes to DMT, Andrew Gilliam, he is a pharmacologist, somebody that develops drugs, okay? That is a huge proponent on DMT. And he also has set up clinical trials. So there's those other clinical trials on. So there's a lot to delve into there. There's even a physicist that is doing stuff with DMT from that standpoint. So very educated people. And that's the beauty of this, that we were in a phase in our lives back starting in the 60s where people weren't able to talk about it. But now you're seeing the mental health and the medical professionals are starting to come back out. And they're like, yes, we're doing this again. This is amazing because it's very promising.
That's so interesting. And unfortunately, I don't think psychedelics are legal in the UK, but maybe one day they'll be decriminalized, especially with the growing evidence, like you say, from clinical trials.
And again, I'm thinking there's different there's Lycos that's here in the United States that's doing clinical trials on MDMA. Yeah, it is very remarkable. I encourage people to follow MAPS. That is a nonprofit organization here in the United States. They just had their big event here, World Psychedelic Day here in Denver. So definitely follow them. A lot of great stuff coming out of there as well. And again, there's some people, wealthy people out there that across all political spectrums that are supporting this. And also, I don't want to forget though, because again, I celebrate my indigenous culture. Me being Puerto Rican, my tattoo here is Taino. Right? Those are the indigenous people of Puerto Rico. And we can't leave them out because it's because of the indigenous people that we have psychedelics, like magic mushrooms, like DMT. Now, of course, LSD was discovered by Albert Hofmann back in the late 30s, different. But again, LSD is the 25th molecule of the fungus ergot. A lot of people don't realize that it comes from the fungus ergot, the 25th molecule. It was just synthesized. And it is. It's the cleanest. It's non-toxic. It's amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, we definitely can't have the white men claiming everything. So
thank you, Liz, for saying that. And speaking of, my other message too is that one thing I love about your group, because you hit it on the head. Our community and also the organizations, and I love our organizations, they're doing amazing for us, but they're all female dominated. And it's not intentional. It just happens to be the majority are female. And one thing, Kerly, I remember when I met with you and Iris, you're like, we need more men to come out and speak, right? And so my message to men out there, if you have the diagnosis, come out and speak, right? But guys, if you're experiencing any of the stuff that I described that I was going through, except for daytime sleepiness, people calling you lazy, you're waking up and all of a sudden you got the munchies. That's the other issue I got. You got sleep paralysis. It's time to talk to a specialist about it. Get the diagnosis. Don't avoid it anymore. Macho is out the door. We don't need macho. Macho is not serving us in the world anymore. It really is. It never has. We are better when we are working together, right? When we can solve problems together. And we guys, we need to step it up and come help these ladies run this and make this better. So that's my message.
Do you want to ask your red button now?
Yeah, sure. The final question of the podcast. If you could press a red button and never have experienced narcolepsy, would you press it and why?
I would not, because I'm here today because of it. My purpose in life is to do this, to be the advocate, right? My purpose in life is to help people feel that they are getting that support, that, and reaching their full potential. I want to help people. And so if I press that red button, it eliminates that. I used to think about that too. If I got my diagnosis when I was younger as a kid, would I be thinking differently? So yeah, I think that having narcolepsy has been a gift. It's really weird because even when I was a kid and growing up through adulthood and having the paralysis and having the lucid dreaming in the back of my mind, I'm like, I have a gift. I'm going to utilize it. Really, we do have a gift, but at times it gets scary. Take advantage of those lucid dreams. Don't be scared of them. And yeah, there are some tough times though, but I think it's just important to get that diagnosis. Not as a kid, but maybe when I was an adult, getting the diagnosis earlier would have been better, right? Then it would have helped me understand some things better. How about you? If you were to press a red button, would you?
It really depends on the day that you ask me.
Right, good one, Liz. Good one. How about you, Kerly?
Yeah, the same. It depends on the day. Most days I would say no, it's fine, because I wouldn't have met the people that I've met and the community if I didn't have it. But on the bad days, yeah, catch me on a bad cataplexy day or a day when I'm on my period and the cataplexy is worse. If you're experiencing a lot of pain like I was and still not sleeping, then I wouldn't even, it was not a thought.
Oh, I'm telling you, there's just so much going on there. Yeah. And believe me, had you asked this question 2 years ago, I would have answered it differently. Really, I think that I really do. I feel like I'm like my younger version now, where, yeah, I wasn't, these things were happening, but I still had this energy, this outgoingness about me. And it really, the whole isolation and everything really happened, like I described, when I was at Macy's. That's when everything just hit the head. That sleep deprivation finally caught up to me. But now I'm not dealing with that no more. And so now I just want to be able to help people hopefully achieve what I've achieved. And there's no pressure, there's no judgments. We all get to where we need to go differently. And that's freaking beautiful about life.
Alejandro, thank you so much for your openness and your authenticity while sharing your story with us. I think our listeners are really going to connect with you. And yeah, thank you for talking about your such varied career and how you ended up in advocacy work as well. It's amazing what you've been doing.
Absolutely, Liz. Yeah, it's been great.
Thank you very much. So we like to end by saying happy napping, everyone.
So after 3, 1, 2, 3.
I love it. And again, anybody out there, if you all want to talk, I love talking to people. So yeah, you can reach out to me at Alejandro at pwn4pwn.org. Love to set up a time to chat. I don't care where you are in the world. We'll figure out a time slot that works for us. I love to connect. Or if you want to join PWN for PWN, we have our community, digital community that you can join. Just go to our website, pwn4pwn.org, and click the join here button. Love to have you. We got some great programs. Check them out on the website. But if you'd like to talk about them or just want to talk one-on-one, share your experience, or if you want to be one of my guests on Snapchat, let's talk. Love to have you. Yeah.
Thanks, Alejandro.
Thank you so much.
Narcolepsy Navigators is excited to announce our new Patreon and merch store. You can choose to support us monthly via Patreon and receive bonus content from our advocacy and medical series, as well as a shout out on the show. Subscribing to our Patreon will allow you to have access to Narcolepsy Navigators Discord server, where you can chat with other navigators, find support, and ask questions to be featured in future bonus episodes. Higher tier supporters can also receive Patreon merch, or if a monthly subscription is not in your budget, you can check out even more merch on our website, www.napsforlife.com. This week, we would like to have a shout out to our very first Patreon supporter, Katie, and our second Patreon supporter, Jane Powell. Thank you very much for your support. Narcolepsy Navigators is produced by a team of volunteers working for the Naps for Life CIC, which is a non-profit group dedicated to improving the lives of people with sleep disorders through community action. You can help grow our podcast and join our sleep disorder support group by visiting the website www.napsforlife.com. If you or someone you know has a sleep disorder and would like to share your story on Narcolepsy Navigators, please email us at narcolepsynavigators@gmail.com. You can also support us by donating at the website. Happy napping, everyone.